Here's the secret science behind Animal Crossing's mysterious blue roses. I'm Maud Garrett, and today we are going to unearth the hidden science behind Animal Crossing New Horizons' rarest flower, the blue rose. To learn more, it'll cost you 78,341 bells. Sorry, I don't know what came over me. Learning is free. Do not let that scam artist Tom Nook convince you to pay a single bell for what should be rightfully yours. But first, today's episode is brought to you by The Real Cost. If you're looking for something to do, try playing a video game on hard mode instead of vaping. Because vaping could potentially make your life challenging in a way no amount of power-ups can fix. You can inhale toxic metals that can damage your lungs. In the real world, you don't get a do-over, so take care of your body. The blue rose, the most elusive flower in all of Animal Crossing New Horizons, is the result of hard work, determination, and a green thumbstick. But did you know that real-world science can actually help explain how these precious plants are created? Join us as we break down the wild world of Mendelian genetics. Flowers have been a part of every Animal Crossing game to date. While they are randomly generated in your town when a new save file is created, they can also be planted by both player and villagers alike. However, some flowers, like the blue rose, will only occur if specific criteria are met. Just like in real life, players can develop hybrids of flowers and specific colours of flowers through selective breeding. In Animal Crossing, creating a hybrid flower is dictated in part by an algorithm and by randomly generated numbers. In order to create hybrid flowers in-game, players must place flowers of the same type either side by side or diagonally, and the next morning a new flower may sprout next to one of the parents. While this may sound like video game logic, there is actually real science behind it. Every flower in New Horizons possesses ingrained data that simulates real-world genetics, and thus one can determine the odds of a child's flower possessing specific genes using real-world methods like Punnett squares to map the parent flower's traits. Punnett squares provide a visual representation of possible genotypes that offspring could inherit. While the Punnett squares was created in the 20th century by British geneticist Reginald C. Punnett, the science behind this was the result of 19th century experiments by Austrian monk Gregor Mendel, who is known as the KK Slider of modern genetics. Sorry, I mean the father of modern genetics. It's just that KK's a dog with a guitar, and that's so cool. Then again, considering that Mendel became a monk in order to avoid paying for an education, maybe he's got more in common with the notoriously thrifty Tom Nook than I originally thought. Between 1854 and 1856, Mendel bred and studied thousands and thousands of peat plants in order to examine how various genetic traits, or genotypes, are passed across generations of plants and manifest as externally observable traits, or phenotypes. The phenotypes Mendel observed were flower colour, flower position, stem length, pod shape, pod colour, seed shape, and seed colour. In doing so, he observed how gene variants, known as alleles, are passed on to future generations. Mendel successfully derived the mathematics behind dominant and recessive genes, providing the world's first empirical evidence that scientific traits are passed on from one generation to the next. Mendel's discoveries are expressed as the principle of segregation and the principle of independent assortment. The principle of segregation means that genes are transferred as separate, distinct units from one generation to the next, and the principle of independent assortment means the alleles two different genes are sorted independently and do not influence one another in determining how they are passed on. Through Mendel's research and using Punnett squares, one can accurately predict the ratios of various observable traits, as well as their underlying genetic composition. More than anything, what Mendel did was help create a statistical model of probability for determining genetic inheritance. No wonder it translates so well to a video game. It always comes back to that damn RNG. Thankfully, the science of Animal Crossing is a little easier to manipulate, but it relies on the same principle of plant hybridization and crossbreeding that have been used for centuries. Case in point, did you know that before the 17th century, most carrots were purple? Yeah, it's true. Dutch growers began conducting research to breed better tasting, hardier carrot crops. By taking mutant strains of purple carrots, as well as yellow and white ones, they managed to create the sweeter carrots we know and love today. The fact that they're orange is probably in tribute to the fact that the House of Orange was the ruling family of the Netherlands. But back to the matter at hand. How does this explain blue roses in Animal Crossing? Well, they are the result of rigorous plant hybridization and selective breeding. Blue roses can consistently be grown from special hybrid red roses with a particular genetic makeup. But acquiring those red roses is easier said than done, because their phenotypes don't offer unique clues for players, and Tom Nook refuses to let professional botanists on his island, according to a vicious rumour that I just started. Naughty. In order to grow a blue rose, one must begin by buying red, white and yellow rose seeds. Next, you should breed white roses with white roses to make purple roses, and then breed yellow with red to make orange roses. After that, you breed 2 sets of orange roses to make a new set of orange roses, which we'll call Orange B, which contain different genetic information than store-bought roses. Then breed your purple roses with yellow roses to get white roses encoded with their genetic information. After that, breed your purple roses and new white roses to make purple B roses. Next, take your orange B and your purple B roses to make a 3rd generation called orange C roses. If you breed 2 orange C roses together, you can make a new breed of red rose, which we will call Rose A. Lastly, I promise, if you breed 2 of these hybrid red A roses together, you should arrive, at long last, at blue roses. When all is said and done, you've gone through 9 generations of roses in order to arrive at these rare blue beauties. If all of this is making your head feel like you just lost a fight with a wasp nest, you are not alone. No, I am hurting. It is a surprisingly complex science that offers you a pathway to probability, but not a guarantee of success. Following that method will only give you blue roses 1.6% of the time. Now, it is possible to boost your likelihood of blue roses to a maximum of 25% using other, more involved methods, but the principles of genetic inheritance and selective breeding remain the same. It requires constant vigilance, as you need to remove unwanted flowers to prevent them from accidentally crossbreeding with neighbouring plants. No wonder you need to eat 10 pieces of fruit a day to keep your strength up. That is a lot of time, effort and patience required to go from a field of randomly generated flowers to a specific shade of blue. But thankfully, due to the miracles of science, Mendelian genetics and Punnett squares, we can make the process of cultivating our dream flowers just a little bit easier. Unless, of course, you're trying to get gold roses, in which case good luck getting that 5-star town rating to unlock the golden watering can. There's no science there, just an inexorable grind to improve your community to a raccoon overlord's unknowable standards while you slowly realise that you have been conned into a part of a larger real estate Ponzi scheme. Now, if someone could just tell me how to keep my succulents alive, maybe I could raise my apartment star rating too. They're all dead. Thanks for watching Behind the Fandom, and we'll see you next time.